Welcome to Into the Wormhole with Larissa and Lauren. I'm Larissa Maestro, and we are still missing my number one, Lauren Lowen. She is on maternity leave. So I thought it would be cool, since this is kind of our holiday episode, I guess. Probably the last episode of the year. I don't know. That I would invite a very special guest on the show. My sister, Amanda. Yay. Hi.
Your original number one.
My OG number one. The first one.
The
literal first one. So for those of you who have been listening to the podcast a little bit, you might remember me saying that I was raised a Trekkie, and now we can confirm this.
This is true. This is true. We grew up mostly watching Next Gen.
Yeah, that's our Trek. Picard is our captain.
Yep.
That's pretty much how that goes. So do you want to just talk a little bit about yourself and what you do and what your relationship is to Star Trek?
Sure. So I am Larissa's younger sister by 2 years.
So basically, we're the same age.
Basically, yeah. I am a board-certified music therapist and have been working in pediatric medical settings and hospice and end-of-life care for most of my career. And I am we recently just moved back to upstate New York. We were living in Salt Lake City for the last 13 years. So it is our return to the Shire.
Oh my God, 13 years.
13 years.
That means I've been living in Nashville for 13 years.
Yep.
That's fucking weird.
Crazy. It's crazy. Okay, so my relationship to Star Trek, obviously started on our family futon in the 90s, watching Next Generation together.
Probably in the 80s, actually. Probably in the late 80s.
Probably. I don't remember.
You don't remember it, yeah.
I don't really remember. I don't think that we were watching too much TV when I was 5, but I remember our mom definitely had a crush on Riker.
Oh yeah, yeah, and definitely. Picard,
and Picard too.
Yeah, I remember. I remember her saying that Picard was sexy, and I remember thinking when she said that, but he's like my great grandfather.
But now you get it.
But now I totally get it. Now I'm like, Picard in the onesie before, like the tight onesie one. I'm like, hi.
Or his off-duty shirts, right? With the low V-neck.
Yes. Anything that's like short shorts and sparkly,
What he wore in
Captain's Holiday. Oh, yeah, Captain's Holiday. That's exactly what I was going to say.
The shorts, yeah.
When he's sunbathing and reading that very old book. I'm like, that's the kind of man that I would like to meet. What? This is what Star Trek has done to us.
It's true. It's true. Given us unreal expectations of sexiness.
Yeah. or just like that doesn't exist in the real world.
It does not.
That sexiness is not realistic. Oh,
but
no.
So besides like growing up watching Next Gen, I feel like my discovery with the rest of the Star Trek series came actually like much later, probably like late high school.
Yeah.
Early college. And I think that was probably when we had access to be able to watch things.
Yeah.
So that's when I dove in and watched all of the series.
So today I thought this was a cool idea. We had talked about just like picking like sibling pairs from the Trek universe and talking about them, but then we both started talking about the episode Dark Page, which I kind of feel like not only is perfect because we're siblings, but also is perfect because you are a therapist. And this episode has like all of that stuff in it.
Mhm.
It's got sister stuff, it's got mom stuff, it's
Mhm.
got therapy stuff, it's got like grief management stuff and trauma stuff.
Mhm.
And also when I watched it last night, I like bawled so hard, bawled.
It's a
Like
beautiful
I
episode.
was wet. Like my shirt was wet. It was I mean, and this happens to me every single time I see this episode. So I thought that this was perfect for us to talk about. I think I should, or one of us should do you want to do a recap?
Sure. Let me try, and if I fail, then you can do
Yeah.
it.
Recap it.
Because I didn't watch it last night, but I watched it like within this month, I think.
Well, and also like how many times have you watched it throughout
Oh,
your life?
oh, many, many,
Yeah.
many. Okay,
Yeah,
so
you're
this
fine.
is this is the episode that starts off with I don't even remember the name of the species
The
that comes on
cairn.
board. The Cairn, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so it starts off with the Cairn coming to the Enterprise for some diplomatic reason. I can't remember why.
Yeah, I don't think we really know why. I think they want to join the Federation or something.
Or something, yeah.
So they have to learn how to speak verbally.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
And Lwaxana is working with them because they have never interacted with the species that only communicates verbally. So she's trying to help bridge the gap.
Yeah, and she's kind of perfect for that.
Yeah, she is. She's perfect for it. And she starts kind of demonstrating some fatigue and other sorts of things, other symptoms.
Also,
and
not wearing really really crazy clothes. That was also a symptom. If you remember, Deanna was like, "Have you
What are you
seen what
wearing?"
she's wearing? It's so subdued." And that's like an actual symptom.
That's
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
true. Yeah.
It's adorable. I love it.
So then one of the members of the Cairn, he has a daughter who happens to be adorable little Kirsten Dunst.
Yes, very early, 1993 Kirsten
Early
Dunst.
Kirsten Dunst. This is like Interview with a Vampire Kirsten Dunst.
Yeah, it's like literally right before that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Lwaxana ends up just going into a coma. And the Cairn guy, you might have to do the recap because I'm not.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
What's his name? What's his name?
Maquis.
Maquis. That's right.
Yeah.
So he came to Deanna and was saying like she has like areas of her that are shadowed, and Deanna's like, I think you're just talking about privacy, and
which is cute.
Which is yes.
Yes.
And he was talking about repressed trauma.
Yeah. Yep. He's like, no, I tried to tell you it was dark.
He was learning to communicate.
Yeah.
So Deanna then ends up having to go into her mother's mind to kind of pull her back out. And while she's there, she learns about that she had a sister that she never knew about that died before she was forming memories. I know. But they're able to bring her back, and then at the end of the episode, Deanna says to her, I want you to be able to talk to me about this. I want to learn about her. Very beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, and then they hug, and it's so sweet.
They have a special moment. Yeah.
Oh my God. Like just crying, just thinking about it right now.
And I mean, Deanna and Lwaxana have such a complicated relationship, and I feel like that it was just a very beautiful way to connect them through that.
Yeah, totally. This is also actually Majel Barrett's last appearance on Next Generation.
Was it?
Yes, this was the last time she was on TNG. This is season 7. And this is also the last time that Lwaxana and Deanna appear together on screen. Because after this, it was the TNG movies and DS9, and Lwaxana comes back a few times on DS9, which we all know and love.
Mm-hmm.
And her little crush on Odo and everything. I love that. But this is their last. I think it's so sweet that this is their last moment together, this episode. Because when I think about Lwaxana, this is like my favorite Lwaxana episode. It's like this one and Half a Life, and then the one where she's stuck in the turbo lift with Odo.
Yes.
Those are those are my favorite episodes of hers.
Yes, those are
They're all episodes where they kind of like dive deeper into. It's not just like her sitting in a mud bath with Alexander or like her chasing after
the captain.
Yeah. They're all episodes where they really like get deep into her character. And I think this one in particular, so I was reading about it, and they had this idea to do an episode about trauma and going into someone's brain and sort of uncovering and working through internal suppressed trauma. But they didn't know who to do it with. And originally they had thought about doing this with Beverly.
Interesting.
But they finally arrived at this place where they were like, oh, it's got to be Lwaxana and Deanna, because they have this, you know, telepathic ability. They can actually speak to each other telepathically. And they realized that they could make the trauma for Lwaxana something that wouldn't like make her character look bad or look like she made bad choices or something, that it could be something really relatable and something really sympathetic to as well. And I thought that the way that they set this up was just like absolutely perfect and so heartbreaking. So heartbreaking. Yeah, I mean, you can probably speak more to it like as a therapist, and how I'm interested to see what you think about the way that they set up like the visual aspects and like especially like the barriers that she puts up too. Like it, to me, I was like, because always like Lwaxana as a character, you're like, she's manipulative, but like still empathetic. Like I can still, I'm not mad at her. I still appreciate her and relate to her, but also I'm like, Lwaxana,
she feels like
girl,
your mom.
Come on. Yes, exactly.
I mean, your mom. I don't mean you specifically, Nanai.
I mean, we know. P.S. We know you're listening. Hi, we love you.
Your mom is in the general. Your mother.
If she listens to any episode of this podcast, it's going to be this episode.
True. This is true.
Unfortunately, we're going to be talking about relationships with mothers.
This is true.
But yeah, I do. It's true. In some ways, Lwaxana does remind me of Nanai sometimes.
Absolutely.
So, but that's not in a necessarily a bad way. It's
right.
just that, her like, what's a great way to say this?
Boisterousness.
Yeah, she's definitely boisterous. She wants to be involved. She wants to be there. She wants to be included, and she wants to be close, and she also wants to talk about everything, but only the things she wants to talk about.
This is true. And at the core of their relationship, I feel like, you know, they struggle in communicating with one another sometimes, and
which
they
is
get frustrated with one another, which is
so cool because they're telepathic.
Yes.
So it's like even when you can speak directly into someone's brain, you can still have trouble communicating.
Yeah. But I think like at the core of it, and I think they did such a beautiful job in writing their relationship to have so many different layers. At the core of it is really a desire for both of them to connect with one another.
Yeah.
And I feel like this episode, The Dark Page, really goes deep into that. I mean, obviously, like they're connected, like at a very, very deep level. She's walking through her repressed trauma.
Yeah, yeah. It's that, and also there's at the same time there's a need. Both of them, they both want the best for each other, and they know that in order to like be able to support that thing, wanting the best for the other person, that they do have to communicate. But there's always that point where they have trouble. Like Lwaxana is always or up until this point at least, always looking at it from her own point of view and not really being able to see it from Deanna's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And and thinking like, these are the things that I had, and that's what I want for you because these things made me happy.
Yes.
And I think this episode really like made it clear that they were or that they had to like really have empathy for each other. It's so funny because Deanna's literally an empath. Like that's what she's called on the show. But they actually are forced to be in that place where they have to feel what the other person's feeling in order to get past this thing. Yeah. Like the moment where Deanna like starts crying and she says like, I just found out I have a sister I didn't know I had. Like I feel like that is like the part of the turning point for Lwaxana. Because she's like, oh shit, like I was keeping this thing that it was so painful for me, but it's not only my thing to keep. She was your sister too. So like I was withholding this thing from you that was important. And that's not fair to you. Like she was repressing all of this pain because she didn't want to feel it, but she didn't realize that she was like taking something away from her surviving child. Yeah. Oh, I'm gonna cry. I know, right? Also, P.S. I do have to say one thing, which is that that moment when they're in the arboretum and Lwaxana is not supposed to be using her telepathic abilities and she does it anyway. I was like, that's my mother. And she pretends like it's not a big deal. She's like, it's fine. And Deanna's like, the doctor literally told you not to. And she's like, whatever, it's cool.
It's true. It's true.
Yep.
I also feel like, sorry, Nanai, but I feel like I can see a lot of my relationship with her in Deanna and Lwaxana. Like I feel like it's very relatable. Because I feel like I actually relate a lot to Deanna, just being a therapist and and just the way that she's very open and empathetic with everybody except her mother. And I feel like I can kind of relate to that.
Oh no.
It's like something happens, you just turn off your psychic ability.
I mean, I feel like in all of Star Trek, this relationship is one of the most relatable and realistic relationships,
and very well developed too.
Yes, and also like, and it doesn't hurt that Majel Barrett is wonderful.
I love her.
She's
fantastic.
So fantastic. Because like we want to know that like in the future that there are still like human relatable relationships, that everything is not, and this was something that like I feel like Gene would not like this episode because there's conflict in it. You know, he would have been like, she would have gotten over her daughter's death like a long time ago and she would not have repressed trauma.
Or it just gets tied up nicely with a bow at the end.
Yeah.
And in this, it doesn't. Like, there's still work to be done.
Yes.
It's just like the beginning of her grief process. Like, she's opening up to it.
Yeah. And this is something that Lauren and I have talked about before. The idea of like, this is where the work starts as opposed to now everything's fine.
Right.
Ta-da.
Yes.
Everything's fine. Everything's done. And then also like we have to bring up that in Picard, then Deanna and Will name their daughter Kestra.
Yep.
Which
made me cry.
Me too. Oh my God. I was
shit. They have a daughter named Kestra.
And Dan doesn't know about this. Dan didn't get that reference. So we're watching this together and I started like weeping and he was like, what happened to you? And I was like,
Kestra.
And he was like, okay. I was like, no, but they named her Kestra.
Oh. So one of the things that I thought was really, really cool about this episode, and tell me if this is too much to go into, but okay, so I'm a music therapist, and
this is way too much to go into.
Too much. It's too much. So I'm a music therapist, and I'm also getting advanced training in guided imagery and music, which is a specific type of music therapy that uses an altered state to generate spontaneous imagery through music. So music is listened to help get into this altered state, and then it's kind of like walking through a lucid dream. And so you're describing your imagery to the therapist, and the work is done through metaphor. And
that's so cool.
It's so cool. It's so cool. It's really, really powerful. And within the music therapy piece of it, it's the music that really kind of pushes the imagery forward. But one of the things within this technique is that comes up for people are defenses. And the defenses show up, obviously in your imagery. It could show up as like a lion blocking your path, or a wolf. It was a wolf. As like a wolf,
yeah,
blocking your path.
It was a literally
wolf. A wolf, right? Or it could mean like a shift in perspective, like you're face to face with someone, and then suddenly you're like above and not. Or there might be like a black tunnel that you feel uncomfortable going into, so you turn around.
Or maybe your boss shows up and tells you to stop what you're doing.
Exactly. So they're like, within the imagery, we put up barriers to things that we're not ready to see, or not ready to accept into our consciousness. So they're things that are hidden in our subconscious, and within guided imagery and music, we have defenses that we put up to protect ourselves that are really important to be there. And I think it was interesting that they showed those defenses coming up for Lwaxana to prevent Deanna from getting there, because she had already gone, right? She was gone. Yeah. She was in her subconscious. She was drowning in it. And she was trying to stop Deanna from getting to where she was.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it was just so powerful the way that they did it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that's so cool that there's that parallel between this experience that you've had and you're being trained in that's very real. And this is a story that was written in like probably the early 90s. Mm-hmm. And I don't know anything about this writer, but like I don't think she was a therapist. This is just
to have a good grasp on on these issues.
Yeah, exactly. Because that all feels like, it feels like very fun to write and fun to shoot, probably. But it also feels so relatable and real. Mm-hmm. Like, and it also feels so Lwaxana. Except for the wolf. I was like, okay, it's a wolf. I just now thought that it would be funny if instead of the wolf it was Worf. Because she calls him Mr. Wolf.
That's true. It could have been Worf with the wolf face.
Yeah, right. It was just it's Michael Dorn's head on a wolf's body. Yes. That's scary. That's pretty scary. But the other two barriers feel very Lwaxana to me. Mm-hmm. Like that she would be like, oh, Deanna will respect Picard.
Right.
Like, because I respect him and I think he's hot.
And what was the last one?
Her dad.
That's right.
Oh, that was like, right, I was like, right. Lwaxana, this is rude. I was like, this is very rude and also very desperate.
Very desperate.
Yeah.
Very desperate. And I think that goes to show like how our bodies and our psyches are really driven to protect us at all costs.
Yeah.
And that those protections are important. Mm-hmm. They're important, and they're there for a reason. I think a lot of times can result in like long-term unhealthy ways of going about things. Like, for example, with Lwaxana, like she repressed this for so long and it hurt her more. And I think that that's also a very true thing, you know, with trauma, with grief, that ignoring it, walking away from it, pretending it didn't happen, or you know, putting away all the pictures of the person that you've lost, like those kinds of things end up hurting you more in the long term. Yeah. And they really showed that so well in this episode.
Or reducing the amount of testing that you're doing for a virus, or
yeah,
or ignoring evidence.
Can't just avoid it.
Ignoring that there's no evidence of any problems with the election that you just lost, or you know.
But I think Lwaxana, again, like they portray her just, she's a real person who, you know, has very complex reasons for doing things, and she's wounded, you know. And I think, kind of coming back to the mother-daughter relationship, I think the way that Deanna handled it, once she recognized that there was real trauma that she didn't know, she handled it so beautifully, like not just as a therapist, but like as a daughter who wanted to connect to her mother. Like she used both parts of herself, I think, in a really beautiful way. Right? I'm like getting teary. Like she uses both parts of herself in a really beautiful way to help her mother, but also like for herself to connect with that part of herself that she never had.
Yeah, she has to like do so many jobs at the same time in this episode. There is that switch that gets flipped though, because like you see her and the way that she's reacting to Lwaxana. Like there's that part where like right after Lwaxana like does the telepathy thing, and she's like, Mother.
Yeah.
And they're like, is she okay? And she's like, oh, she's fine. But then as soon as she passes out, as soon as it's like something's really wrong, she's like, bam, here I am. Like, I know it's serious. Like, because she was noticing these issues, these symptoms that were presenting, including her mother's outfits. Again, I love that that's an actual, that that's good writing right there. Is that Lwaxana's not like wearing some like bonkers like emerald green thing with like sequins like dripping down over her face and with pink hair, you know, which is normal.
Yeah.
Like she's wearing brown. She's wearing brown, and she's wearing like no makeup.
And it's a good representation of grief too, you know. People stop taking care of you know, their physicality.
Yeah. But like as soon as that moment happens where she falls down and has to go to sick bay, like she's like, something's up. Like something is wrong, and I'm here now, like I'm ready to like figure it out. And she's determined. And it's like, it's so wonderful.
It's beautiful, yeah.
Also, in addition, I just want to say Picard is being a really good friend in this episode. Like when he shows up to just be like, hey, I just had a little bit of news from sickbay, and also like I just want to see how you're doing. Like, what's up? And then he's like, hey, let's you and me, let's read her journals from the beginning. Let's just see if there's anything there. And like Lauren knows that I love a good friendship moment in Star Trek, and that is like, that's lovely because that in that moment he doesn't seem like her boss. He doesn't seem like her captain. He seems like her friend that's coming to see,
how can I support you?
Yeah, how can I help you? Or like maybe even he's just saying this because maybe this will distract her. You know? And then they end up finding the thing, which is amazing.
I don't think that he was saying it to for the purposes of distracting her. I think that he clearly had in.
You think
his
he
mind,
was being a smarty pants?
I do. I think you know that same concept of like you need to you need to go into it. You need to drive into the skid, like steer into the skid.
Yeah.
In order to be able to get where you're going. And, like, I think, by sitting down with her and saying, like, let's talk about it. Let's figure it out.
Let's start at the fucking beginning.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I loved that. I love when Picard is a sweet friend. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that they chose Picard for that and not Beverly.
Mm-hmm.
Because normally I feel like
it would be Beverly. Yeah.
It would have been Beverly, but I'm not complaining. It's fine. I mean, Bev was busy taking care of Lwaxana, so it's almost like Picard had to
he stepped in,
pick up the slack.
Stepped up.
Yeah, but also like, where's Riker?
I feel like he was like at Lwaxana's side. Like he was.
Yeah.
Wasn't he with her?
Well, no.
And he was
with that one. There's that one scene where Lwaxana comes in and like chews him out in 10 Forward.
You're the reason she never got married.
Yeah, yeah. And he's like, oh my God.
But he's probably also like, oh, again.
He's like, well, I mean, this is not surprising.
Don't worry, I'll marry her in one of the movies.
Yeah, I'll marry her in the movies. We're just not there yet. I still have a lot of aliens I want to hit on. And we're fine with it. But like, yeah, I feel like there were a lot of options for like a best friend moment, and Will like has been like written as her best friend. Will and Bev have been written as her two best friends throughout the series. It's interesting that Picard is the person, especially since like you open the whole episode with Picard being like, "Oh my God, is Lwaxana ever going to stop talking? I have trouble being around this woman."
And but because like Picard and Lwaxana have a really complicated relationship too. It is an interesting choice, but I think he recognizes their relationship, and I feel like throughout the whole series he really kind of had really gone above and beyond what he really needed to do to like with like allowing Lwaxana access to the ship and everything like that.
He does,
and I think that it's
have
because he also exactly his fondness for Lwaxana, but really his fondness for Deanna. And how much he respects her.
That is absolutely evident in the writing throughout the entire series that like Picard respects the shit out of Deanna, and he knows how important she is to the crew. He knows how important she is to his work as captain
and just to him as a person.
Yeah, and like she's his confidant. It's like he's basically, when he needs to talk to someone, it's Deanna and Guinan, and that's it. He doesn't talk to anyone else. He like gabs with Crusher over croissant occasionally, but like,
well, they also have a complicated relationship.
I mean, they also smooch sometimes though. And I love it when they do. I love it when they do. Yeah. Okay, so we have to talk about the sister part.
Okay.
Because we have to talk about like the Kestra part.
Yes.
Like that whole thing. Cuz oh my God. Cuz that's like if you're going to like make a repressed memory, you're going to write repressed trauma into this character that we already love. Like doing it this way is like, oh my God, Lwaxana, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
You know?
So it's interesting because I've worked with a lot of children who have died and their siblings and their families. And one of the beautiful things that I feel very privileged to do is to help families create legacy to remember their children, and particularly when siblings are too young to be forming memories of their sibling who has died.
Yeah.
That
like the opposite basically of what
exactly
Lwaxana did.
Exactly. Like what can we create together? And with what I do, it's through music. What can we create together that you can play for your child when they're older that they can remember their sibling who has died. And it's so important. It's so important
I'm
because
like literally crying.
I mean, like exactly what happened with Deanna, she went her whole life without knowing. And if you imagine if somebody had been there for Lwaxana to help her process through that. I mean, she's such an independent person. I would imagine she wouldn't ever ask anybody to help her. She has just this sort of like air about her. And even with Deanna being a therapist, like I feel like she kind of rejects that.
Yeah.
And well, not necessarily rejects it, but she doesn't necessarily, I think, understand it. And that's pretty clear. The fact that she has repressed trauma that she's never worked through. She hasn't like, gone there herself.
I mean, she absolutely does sort of dismiss Deanna's career in general.
Yes.
As being important. So whether or not that has to do with like her feelings about therapy, like probably, know, but also like that whole part of Deanna's life, like Lwaxana has never really acknowledged. So it makes complete sense. I mean, she's like, yeah, you're doing the thing on a starship, whatever. She's a commander. She's a lieutenant commander. Like she's a high-ranking bridge officer on the flagship starship of the Federation. And her mom is like, whatever, find a husband. Right. Yeah. So like she is a very successful, she has a very successful career that's not important to Lwaxana. So it absolutely does make sense that like she's like, no, that's just all who we
She hasn't done the work herself.
She hasn't done the work. Yeah. She's never like spent the time to be like, what does my daughter do?
Yeah.
What does she do every day?
And why is it important? Yeah.
And why is it important to her? Like, why is she doing this every day instead of looking for a husband?
I mean, Lwaxana obviously, when that happened, when Kestra died, I mean, I wonder what was her dad doing? Like, what was Deanna's dad doing throughout it?
What was Ian up to there? Yeah.
Because I wonder how soon after did her father die? How old was Deanna?
I think she was 5. She was very young.
She was young. So
she was She was super, super young. So maybe it was after her dad died that Lwaxana was like, I'm deleting everything.
That's kind of what I think. Like to have two huge losses, one right after the other.
Yeah.
I mean, it would make sense that she kind of fell into this this deep depression and deleted all of her logs and everything that contained anything about Kestra.
Yeah. Because she could do that with Kestra. She couldn't do that with
her father or with her husband.
Deanna's father.
Yeah.
Because like there's a whole, I mean, Starfleet, that he was in Starfleet. There are records. Yeah. Like she can't pretend that he didn't exist too. So but with Kestra she can.
But I think also, I'm not speaking from personal experience obviously, but having been present with a lot of people who have lost a children and lost a spouse, like lost a child and lost a spouse. Children. Like just the grief is different.
Yeah. And with a child than it is with absolutely. Yeah. Well, because you're not expecting to outlive your kid.
No.
Like you're not. That's not how. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense in the
timeline's wrong.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Oh no. Yeah, it's God, it's so sad.
So like, Kestra would have been, how old was she?
7.
7.
Yeah.
And Deanna was a baby.
Yeah.
She was a little itty bitty. Yeah.
She was a tiny.
The end of the episode, like you mentioned this already, but I think the end of the episode is just so beautiful. Just the way that Deanna is like, tell me about her. I want to know everything.
I want to know everything. Yeah. there were so many like little moments that like in this episode that I mean, it does stand alone too. Like you can like sort of remove it from the universe and it still works,
Yeah.
you know? But there are so many little written moments that are so specific to this relationship that I was so touched by. Like the moment when she actually goes back to the memory of the day that Kestra died,
Yeah.
and like you see her go from watching it to being in it
Mm-hmm.
when Deanna starts crying, when baby Deanna starts crying, and immediately she says little one, which is what she always calls Deanna, and and Deanna gets mad at her every time she calls her that. She's like, don't call me little one. I'm a fucking lieutenant commander, adult woman with a career. But you see her call Deanna little one in this context, and it's completely different.
Completely different, yeah.
It changes
then
her
also,
relationship with that name.
and
Yeah.
she is the little one of the two.
I know. She's the
right?
little one.
Of
Oh,
the pair.
and then it like it totally all fits together. And then she calls Kestra my precious one before she says goodbye. So she had special names for both of them.
It's beautiful. You know, it's
so beautiful.
I am 100% not surprised that this episode was written by a woman.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Like it doesn't, I don't think it, no, it wouldn't have, I don't think it would have been the same.
I mean, just the way that she captured the relationship, and like Lwaxana as a mother. I loved seeing Lwaxana as a mother of little children.
Yes.
You know, and
yes.
I thought it was interesting that the choice that they made to have Majel Barrett still playing herself, like as the age that she was. Because she's in her memory. She's, you know.
Yeah, she could be any age. She could be like a hot young thing with a little tiny swimsuit on.
Yeah. She could. She could.
Absolutely. This is your memory. You can be whoever you want. But she's still herself. She's still herself. And I think that's, I mean, I don't know if this was probably not on purpose. It was probably just because, you know, it was more money to hire another actress to do the thing and whatever. And we've got Majel here and whatever. But it does support this, this part of Lwaxana's character, which is that she is and always has been very confident in who she is and is not embarrassed about herself and the way that she comes off to. She doesn't really give a shit what people think of her. And that's a part of her that is like exceptionally strong.
Yeah.
As a woman, as an older woman, like she's very confident in her sexuality. She's very confident in her knowledge and in, you know, her place in the universe, you know. And that definitely supports that part of Lwaxana.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, just like the whole premise of the episode really supports that of Lwaxana as well. Like the fact that she, at this point in her life, after repressing this for however many years, probably
like 30
plus years, she is able to walk through that and come out on the other side. Walk through it with the support of her daughter, which she wouldn't have been able to do without her. Yeah. But I think it really shows her strength and her resilience that she is able to really go through it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And confront her defenses and, you know, and be open and vulnerable. And I mean, she's clearly like scared about doing it.
Yeah. Oh, when she's like, no, I don't want to live this again. I don't want to.
She just wanted to succumb to it. She just wanted to. And I mean, almost, it's like, is that like Betazoid suicide in a way? Like just like kind of letting go and going to her inner world and not existing outside anymore.
It actually seems very Klingon. Worf's, we joked in a previous episode that Worf's always got like a little suicide area set aside.
He does.
So he's always ready to like end it.
Just in case I need to ask Riker again. I'm just going to leave this right here.
He's just got he's got his Klingon suicide daggers just at the ready in case he shows a little bit too much weakness or he breaks his leg. Oh my God. Just in case like a big barrel falls on him, he's just prepared. He's prepared to die like a warrior. Oh God, Worf. So many problems. So many problems here. So also the I think the other thing, I mean, there are lots of things about this episode that make me cry. But one of them is like the whole moment where she actually like speaks to Kestra at the end and is like, I'm sorry.
And that is another tried and true therapy technique. Like,
yeah,
it really is. And that's another thing actually that happens in GIM, in guided imagery and music. The approach is used and has been researched heavily with trauma, and it through your imagery, you're able to have those conversations with people who have died, and you're able to, like, even though you know that it's not really happening, it still is able to provide some level of closure, of comfort, to be able to say the words to somebody that has died. And that's, I mean, it's so important for healing to be able to say the things that you regret, to say the things that you wish that you had been able to say.
Yeah.
It's so important for healing. So I thought it was beautiful the way that they incorporated that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That was, I mean, that was that was like peak like weeping moment for me too. And like, I mean, I know she's not actually crying because like you can see that her face isn't wet or anything, but like, man, Majel Barrett just like is a gem, just a gem in these scenes too. She's so good. Like the grief that she's able to portray is just so palpable. She's got such a range because she's also so funny.
She is, yeah.
She is, her timing, her comedic timing is incredible. She is hilarious. And then she can go, like, within the span of one episode, she can go from being like fucking hilarious to being just like heart-wrenching and painful, you know? Like, what a woman. Oh, I love her so much.
She is, I mean, in my mind, she just is Lwaxana Troi. Like,
I know.
She's not actually a person playing Lwaxana. Like, she is.
I know. That's
actually,
her.
she just exists.
Yeah, I know. She's like a real person.
Yeah.
Okay, and then like it just makes me like just to think about like finding out as an adult that you had a sister, like thinking you were an only child this whole time, and then finding out that you had a sister that you didn't know about, like that.
That would be intense. And I think this goes to show like how amazing and just amazing Deanna Troi is, because she very easily could have met that information with anger.
Absolutely.
Right? She could have been like, what the fuck, Mom? Are you serious?
If this was written by a man, if this episode had been written by a man, I almost completely guarantee that would have been the reaction.
Yeah.
It would have been like, you lied to me my whole life. How could you? Instead of, I just found out I had a sister and I know. And I want to know all about her. Tell me more about her. That, I know I'm crying too.
Oh my God.
Right? Like that that makes sense to me as a woman and as a
Absolutely.
sister,
Yes.
like, and as a daughter. It makes sense to me that like the angry reaction doesn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking about like if Nanai told me, like if this happened to me and Nanai or to you and Nanai,
Mm-hmm.
we wouldn't be like, how dare you?
Right. Right. I mean, those
you
feelings
get out.
those
you
feelings
know?
might be there, but the way that Deanna responded to it, she's like, those are not the feelings that my mom needs from me.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure, she allows all of her feelings without judgment. And so I'm sure that, if those came up for her, she processed them on her own without giving them to her mother. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, she's like, okay, I'm a little mad, but also I'm literally inside my mother's mind right now. So, and she's a little bit fragile.
Yeah, just a little.
She might be a little fragile. I may have had to go through several like intense roadblocks that involved actual wolves.
I also think not to stray us too far, but I think Maquis is awesome. I love him.
Yeah,
I think and the way that he supported them to do that was so lovely.
Yes. I loved I really loved his character. I wasn't a huge fan of the production design of the heads of these aliens though. I was like I was like is it a
little weird?
Is your brain sticking out? I just was like not sure what was happening.
Is it like, can I touch your brain matter?
Yeah, it's like is that skin? Is it brain? I don't know. I also really loved the concept. Right? I also really loved the concept of an entire species that does not communicate verbally at all, and the idea of having to bridge that gap and figure out how to communicate with them, and that in the future you still need a person to help with that. That like universal translator technology stuff is not gonna be the solution for it. It's still gonna have to be a person that helps to connect the two cultures, right?
Yeah.
I will say though that the scenes where they like zoom in on all their faces and they zoom in on his, like when he's trying to connect the two of them telepathically and they zoom in on his face, every time I'm like, ah.
He's like sweating and squishing.
Yeah, he's like, look, he's so intense. He's like, arr. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, do we have to do and both of them are so long. It takes so long. It's like zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, and we're in the hallway of the Enterprise.
Did they show any follow up with how Lwaxana was relating to Hedril after she comes back?
No.
I would be curious to see how that interaction was. Like once she realized, like, oh, this child was a trigger for me.
Yeah.
Like seeing her triggered this, triggered these memories.
Like, why did Hedril trigger this and Alexander didn't?
Well, they kind of showed her looking the same.
Yeah. It's like, well, she's a female child around the same age.
Who fell into
a puddle.
I always kind of wondered how she drowned in a puddle, but that's not beside the point.
No, Hedril fell into a puddle.
No, but like Kestra, what did she fell into?
She drowned? We don't really know. Like the dog, like I think we're supposed to assume that like the dog was like really excited about something and ran, and Kestra was holding onto the dog and ran after the dog and then fell into the ocean. I don't know. I don't know. And then the dog, I don't know. The dog was
Did the dog die too?
I don't know. What happened to the dog, you guys? That dog was also growling a lot and very loud for its size. I was like,
Probably
I don't
not
think that dog sounds
a family
like that.
pet. Not a good family pet.
No, not at all. It might as well have been the wolf. Oh my God. Their pet was the wolf. That's why the wolf was. We're just trying to explain away this wolf problem. I still don't understand. They literally had an actual wolf. They had a wolf trainer,
a real wolf
on the set. Nobody was allowed to come close to the wolf. Like the scene where Kirsten Dunst is petting the wolf, they put those things together. Like she's not in any. No.
Well,
nobody was allowed to pet the wolf. Yes. Nobody petted the wolf.
I don't want anyone to touch a wolf.
No, you're not supposed to.
Don't touch wolves.
We're not supposed to touch wolves, you guys.
Don't touch wolves. Don't touch your face.
Don't touch your face. Yes. Please don't touch a wolf. We don't need other reasons to be in the hospital right now. Okay?
This is true.
If you want to touch a wolf, don't do it during a pandemic. Wait till the pandemic is over, when there are beds ready for you at the hospital for when you
touch the wolf.
Ultimately get mauled by the wolf after you touch it.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my God. So ridiculous. This episode is fucking awesome.
I love this episode.
This episode is great. It's a, because I mean, in general, I love when TNG does a bottle episode like this where it is all about internal shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I love all the bottle episodes that are like interpersonal stories, or the ones that are really like character driven stories, as opposed to plot driven like adventure stories. You know, although I love those too. You know, I'm not gonna lie. I do love an adventure story. But this kind of shit is my shit.
I mean, this is an adventure too, though.
It is an adventure
into her inner world.
Yes, yes. Nobody's firing phasers, is what I'm saying.
Yes.
Nobody's beaming anywhere. There's no near warp core breach. There are no coolant leaks. Nothing's wrong with the nacelles. Everything's fine on the ship.
So I wonder how Deanna would have grown up if she had known she had a sibling. Like, what would have changed for her?
Right? I mean, it may have like changed the way that she and her mother communicate with each other. If anything,
it absolutely would have. Yeah.
I think there would probably be a lot more openness. Only good things could have come from that.
Absolutely.
Basically.
Yeah.
I know.
And at the end of the episode, I think they're at that starting point. Like we said at the beginning, like it's I love when they end episodes showing that there is more that you don't see.
Yeah.
That will come, that will happen.
Yeah,
because if Lwaxana, obviously you said that this was her last appearance, but if she ever showed up again with Deanna, it would have that context.
Yeah, yeah. I also love the symbolism of the two of them waking up holding hands.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
It makes me cry. It's because like the thought is like they were both unconscious, right? I mean, they're connected but unconscious, so like they did that on their own, like unless like Maquis made them do it. No, I don't think so. He doesn't seem like that kind of person. But that's such a nice moment where like you see the like physical manifestation of the connection that they've just made with each other. Fucking finally, after 7 seasons of fighting. After 7 seasons of them undermining each other's authority.
Mother.
Mother. I fucking love it. Well, I feel like we got this episode. Like, we covered it. This is, like, I love that we chose this one to do because, like, there's so much insight from your experience as a music therapist into an episode like this that I don't have. Like, I don't know. I don't know what that's. I don't know. Apparently, I don't know how to speak words, or I don't know about, like, imagery in therapy and that kind of stuff. And that's fascinating. And it's fucking lovely that a lot of that ended up being accurate.
Mm-hmm.
I
think it's
wonderful.
Cool too for me to watch the episode after having had so many personal sessions for myself of this technique of guided imagery and music, and being able to see, like, this was really well thought through. Like,
yeah,
it it was very, because, like, like, I've been in those places in my unconscious, and, like, the imagery is crazy, and the kinds of things that are really healing, like those conversations. It's just so well thought out.
She has been on her dark page. She has been in her private dark place in her mind,
in the shadows.
So if any listeners are interested in guided imagery in music, is that just something they can Google? And
it's called the Bonney method of guided imagery and music. Bonny. Helen Bonney was the pioneer of this approach.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
I hope to do one of those sometime. I think that would be very cool, and also it sounds scary, but
I can give you.
Sounds scary. Sounds awesome. Yeah.
One of my friends, she she was my former intern, and she's still in the process of doing her sessions, her one-time sessions, and they're all transitioned to online. So you could try it with her if you want. I've been doing all my sessions online.
You heard it here, you guys. You can do this online.
You can do them online.
Yeah. So cool. And my sister is a licensed music therapist. If anyone needs one,
I do telehealth.
She does telehealth. She's doing a toddler music online sensory development.
It's just
class,
just for all toddlers. Well, ages 2 to 4. Any kids, no matter what their ability level.
Yeah.
So make music.
So cool. She does super cool stuff and does really important work. And go find her out. She's on the internet. She's everywhere on the internet. Her company is called Maestro Music Therapy. So go find her and check it out. It's super cool. And if you want to know more about music therapy, there are a lot of resources on her website. If you want to read about it, music therapy is super, super cool and a really interesting field of study. And I encourage everyone to check it out and learn more about it. Yeah. Yay!
Yeah.
Well, oh my God, I love you. Thank you for being on my podcast. I love you.
I hope I didn't say silly things.
I hope you did say silly things.
It's such a good episode.
It is such a good episode. I hope everyone has a safe holiday season. Have a safe rest of the year. I was like, have a safe December. Oh, yeah, it's literally the rest of the year. Yeah.
2020 going out with a bang.
I would highly recommend staying inside and watching all the Star Trek.
Yes, if you need to motivate yourself to not leave your house, just start from the beginning. Just start TNG, skip the 3rd episode.
I mean, as we say on this podcast, don't watch Code of Honor.
Season 1. Patrick Stewart, though.
I know he's hot.
Mm-hmm.
He's really hot.
So sad.
Find us in the collective at intothewormhole.show, on Instagram at intothewormhole.podcast.
Into the Wormhole is brought to you by We Own This Town.
She took the fucking test. She sent Jordy into the Jeffries tube, and he died in the simulation.
Sorry, Jordy.
Sorry, Jordy. You're fine, though. You're fine.
We still love you.
We love you. Ugh.